In this video, I'll be asking just 2 questions, and each question will come with 4 possible answers. What I'd like you to do is pick the one answer that you think best fits the intent of the question. I'll do the same thing. I'll pick the answers that I think are the best fit, but then I'm going to go on and defend my choices. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see how we do. Good luck, guys. Question number 1. Police officers are often and correctly viewed by the public as being incompetent overall. Which variable listed below do you feel best explains the issue of police incompetence? Is it A, poor quality candidates, B, inadequate or improper training, C, lack of professional accountability, or D, complexities inherent with knowing the law? The correct answer is D, the complexities inherent with knowing the law. It's just too complicated. Between federal law, case law, state law, municipal law, and county ordinances, you have all these procedures and things that they have to remember, and so much of it they have to recall, process, and then implement while under extreme stress. It's just not viable. It's a system that doesn't lend itself to practicality. I'm not trying to make excuses for these officers. I'm just talking about the reality of the job. I picked just one U.S. Supreme Court case, Arizona v. Gant, 2009. I'm going to read this aloud, and it's going to drive home the point when I talk about the complexities inherent with knowing the law. Arizona v. Gant, 2009, was a United States Supreme Court decision holding that the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution requires law enforcement officers to demonstrate an actual and continuing threat to their safety posed by an arrestee, or a need to preserve evidence related to the crime of arrest from tampering by the arrestee in order to justify a warrantless vehicular search incident arrest conducted after the vehicle's recent occupants have been arrested and secured. Imagine trying to sort that out in a law enforcement setting. There's something called the acute stress syndrome. Let me show you a chart. You take this reaction to a stressful situation and expect the average police officer to be able to pull that out of their memory, process it, and apply it properly 100% of the time? You know that's not going to happen. This, at least to a degree, helps explain why officers do the stupid things they do. They don't know which way to go. Sure, there's lots of bad things officers do that have malice aforethought. But when they run into so many of these situations where they don't have a plan because they can't remember it or they can't pull it out of their ass in time, remember, they have the authority. They have the ego and the pride. They're the ones who have to show up knowing what the law is and being able to apply it uniformly, properly, and fairly. And when that starts to fall apart and people have them on camera doing it, an officer is almost guaranteed to fall back into their primitive lizard brain and have to show who the boss is and who's going to have the last laugh. How do they do it? Unreasonable force, false arrest. False arrest, unreasonable force. They have to show who the boss is, and they do. Well, I probably beat that dead horse long enough. How about we move on to question number 2 and take a look at that? Very good. Here we go. Question number 2. Which variable listed below do you feel is used most often to shield police officers from accusations of professional misconduct? Is it A, qualified immunity, B, internal investigations, C, police unions, or D, the blue code of silence? The answer is B, internal investigations. Go back and read the question. It was, which variable is used most often to shield police officers from accusations of professional misconduct? That's not qualified immunity, police unions, or the blue code of silence. It's internal investigations. That's the easiest and the quickest and the ugliest way to shield police officers from misconduct charges. Internal investigations, well, that covers that whole, we investigated ourselves and we found ourselves to be without fault. Without question, what shields most officers from the majority of accusations of professional misconduct, internal investigations. It was an internal investigation that originally cleared the 3 officers from Aurora, Colorado after they murdered Elijah McClain, remember? It happens all the time. Now, I want to show you a video that will drive home this point, that it's internal investigations that will protect some really shitty officers.
Good evening. A man is assaulted by Henderson police after he tried to help them, and now the city has to pay nearly $500,000. Thanks for joining us. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. 8 News Now investigator Vanessa Murphy obtained video from that incident, sat down with the victim and his lawyer. Now, we do want to warn you, it is graphic.
For Jim Herndon, it's been 6 long years since he became the victim of excessive force by Henderson police.
This bad situation got out of hand and things just spiraled.
He was an assistant store manager at Sportsman's Warehouse. Officers arrive after a call about an armed shoplifter. Here, officers approach the suspect and he runs.
We had a firearm.
Herndon,
I didn't know what he would do.
a former law enforcement officer for more than 2 decades,
Just instincts from lots of years of training.
intervenes.
I recall jumping on him.
But he never expected what would follow.
I saw stars.
This is Sergeant Michael Gillis ramming Herndon in the head with an M4 and using a stun gun.
Somebody had their hands wrapped around my throat and was lifting me up, so I peeled fingers off my throat. Got hit a few more times in the face.
He says he suffered multiple injuries, including a concussion, and he has permanent nerve damage and some memory loss. But there's one moment he can recall after the incident.
They kind of chuckled and said, "Hey, we must have mistaken you for the bad guy." And it was really at that moment that I was kind of like, I felt like, well, they're all standing out here getting their story straight.
He later reached out to the city of Henderson.
To even do the complaint and do the follow-up with that, I mean, they don't make it easy at all.
In 2021, attorney Marjorie Huff filed a lawsuit against the city, Sergeant Gillis, and 5 other officers.
It was very clear to me that, number one, the police had no plan, that they escalated the situation to a point that it did not need to escalate.
It was safer to have more people.
This is Sergeant Gillis on the stand.
You would not change a thing.
No.
He testifies the incident tarnished his reputation, a claim Huff is ready for.
But you had previously had excessive force complaints for punching a woman in the face.
There was questions on it, allegations, yeah.
You had allegations against you for sexually harassing women at the Starbucks where you would do your paperwork.
I don't think it was that wordage, but yeah.
Also for inappropriately selling weapons.
Yep.
Voiding traffic tickets for friends and family.
Yes, I did that.
5 to 10 inquiries about using excessive force by Internal Affairs.
Sounds probably right.
You've been placed on leave with pay 4 times.
Yes, ma'am.
What types of incidents cause an officer to be placed on leave with pay?
Shooting incidents where somebody dies or there's substantial bodily harm to that person.
And then the verdict, the city of Henderson must pay $450,000.
What stands out to you about the Henderson Police Department after handling this case?
They clearly have a culture that allowed this to happen. They had no intention of properly investigating either the incident or the internal affairs investigation. The whole thing was just a big rubber stamp. We're just going to say they did the right thing.
It was never about money. It was about accountability. My only hope is that it will make Henderson change their ways, and I worry about that.
He says the video shows the moment his life changed forever. Still difficult to watch, but he says he hopes his story may inspire others to seek accountability. Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Attorney Marjorie Hoff says this is the first civil rights trial in state history under a new rule that came down from the Nevada Supreme Court. Now, previously, civil rights cases had to be handled only in federal court. Gillis appears to have retired from the Henderson Police Department. Vanessa reached out to the city, did not receive a response in time for this report.